So in today's session, we are going to discuss about SOQL queries, and we have to understand what exactly an SOQL query and what is the use, how can we prepare SOQL queries in Apex programming, and how to use this SOQL queries to fetch the records from the Salesforce objects. And upon preparing the SOQL query, what is the syntax we used to follow, and how can we fetch the data from the object by adding the required user-defined conditions. How to add one or more number of conditions. In order to add the conditions, what are the various classes that we have in SOQL query, and what are the various ways that we have in Salesforce to invoke SOQL queries, and what are those mechanisms. And upon preparing the SOQL queries, what exactly is static SOQL, what exactly dynamic SOQL, how to prepare them. Okay, we'll see practically one by one. Now, so let's see what exactly the SOQL queries first. Now tell me, what do you mean by SOQL? SOQL stands for what? Salesforce Object, Salesforce Object Query Language. So SOQL stands for Salesforce Object Query Language. So what exactly is Salesforce Object Query Language? Then what is the base use? What is the use of this SOQL query language? Okay, from where? From Salesforce objects, right? Now, that already we know, whenever we are creating a new Salesforce account, by default, Salesforce is providing Salesforce CRM application by default. As part of this Salesforce account, by default, Salesforce provides Salesforce CRM application by default, which contains the built-in applications to manage your sales and the service and the marketing related data. So in order to automate your sales, service, and the marketing related data, okay, we are having some built-in applications. Now, to store that sales data, to store that okay service data, to store the marketing data, by default Salesforce provides a collection of objects. Those are called as what? Standard objects, right? So by default Salesforce provides a collection of built-in objects as part of Salesforce CRM, which are used to store the CRM related data. Now, along with this standard objects, the developer or administrators can create their own custom objects also upon building their own custom applications. Upon building the custom applications, so now to store their business related data, to store the banking data, finance data, insurance data, healthcare data, whatever the applications they are going to build as part of this application, as part of their business, to store that business related data, they can create their own custom objects also. Now, the combination of both standard and custom objects will be called as what? Yes, subjects. Yes, subject means Salesforce subjects. Now, where all these Salesforce subjects will get resides? All these Salesforce subjects will get resides where? Hmm. Inside the database. That means the tables will be storing where? Inside the database. Now, what is the database for Salesforce? What is the database for Salesforce?
Database.com.
Database? Now,
.com.
now the people are not referencing the notes. Okay. Now these are the base file from the beginning of the session for discussing. Salesforce is using their own customized database, that is database.com. Okay. Now almost we are going to end that course. The people are not remembering this. Now, now let's see. So now Salesforce is providing all these objects inside a database called as database.com. Database.com is a customized database of Salesforce where all the Salesforce objects and the records will get resides. Now, in some cases, upon performing some operations, performing some operations in the business, I want to get some data from the objects. I need to collect some lead records. I need to collect some hiring manager records. I need to collect some loan records. I need to collect some customer records I want to show on my screen in the form of table or structure. In that case, whenever if you want to collect some records from the database table, then we are going to be using the help of a query language called as Salesforce Object Query Language. Then what do you mean by this query? Query is nothing but what? Question. It may be a question, it may be a request. Okay, it will be a request. Now, so now here in this case, for example, come to a small scenario. Assume that I'm using this laptop since last 1.5 years. So now assume that if I'm facing any problem with this product, then what I will do, I will raise a complaint. I will make a call to the HP customer care center. I will raise a complaint. Whenever we are raising the complaint, is that complaint is what? Is it a demand? Is it an order? No, it's a request. It's not a demand. It's not an order. It's a request. That means we're requesting to the customer support. Dear customer support, I'm also one of your customer. I'm using one of your product. So now here, I'm facing some problem with this product. Could you please help me out to fix the issue? We are raising a request to the people. Now, like the similar way here also, now in order to get some data, we need to make a request to the database.com. So now that request is nothing but query. So query is nothing but a request to whom? To the database.com. For what? To get some records from Salesforce objects. Because Salesforce objects and the records are available inside database.com. So if you want to collect some records, we need to make a request to database.com to collect the required records from your Salesforce object. For that one, we are making a request. Whenever we are making a request, how can we make the request? Do I need to send a normal one sentence information? Please provide me account records. Please provide me quote records like that. No, we need to follow some language. So now we need to use a language which can be understandable by the database.com. In that case, we are using the help of a language here, that is SOQL query language here. Okay. So now in this case here, now when coming to the SOQL query, SOQL stands for Salesforce Object Query Language, which is used to fetch the records from the Salesforce objects. In order to get the records from the Salesforce objects, we are using the help of Salesforce Object Query Language. Generally, when we go to the normal databases, we don't have SOQL, we are having simply SQL. There SQL means structured query language. Structure means what? Structure means table. Table means object here. In Salesforce, those tables will be called as what? Objects. In objects, we are having two categories: standard, custom. Combination will be called as sales object. That means Salesforce object. So instead of this yes, they are indicating yes. So that means Salesforce object query language. Okay, understood the concept here? Now, so now here you can raise a question. Sir, whenever we are fetching the data from the Salesforce objects, do we have any facility to fetch the data from multiple tables at a time? I want account records, related contacts, related opportunities, related cases, everything. The combination I want, the combo pack I want here. Sometimes I want only account records. Sometimes I want only lead records. Do we have any chance to get the data from multiple objects? Yes, that is also possible. So by using SOQL queries, we can fetch the data from one or more number of objects. Then, how many records we can collect? Only one or multiple records also. With the help of SOQL query, we can fetch either one record or multiple records from the Salesforce object. So not only one record, multiple records also we can fetch. The facility is available here. Now, in this case here, you can raise a question. So, by using this SOQL query, can we fetch my own specific records? In my account object, we have 100 records. But I don't want 100. I want only those account records whose annual revenue is more than 50 lakhs. Remaining records I don't want. Sometimes I want only heart rating records. Sometimes I want only those cases whose priority equals to high. Sometimes I want only those positions whose location is for Bangalore. Like that here, I want to fetch some specific records based on one or more number of conditions. In this case, as part of this SOQL query, it is providing a provision that we can add one or more user different condition based on our requirement. We can add n number of conditions, also no limitations at all. We can fetch, okay, we can add n number of conditions along with that SOQL query to fetch the required records from the Salesforce object as well. Okay, now in this case, how to prepare SOQL query? How to prepare this SOQL query? What is that statement that we are going to use? Normally in databases, SQL statement will be prepared in what? Through what? SQL statement. SQL query by using what? Not developer console. Normally in the databases, forget about Salesforce. Not filtering. I want to get some data from the table. Then how to write that query in normal databases? SQL language here. In that SQL language, what is that statement you are going to write? Those are DDL statements. Those are DML statements. DML statements are to insert, update, delete. Now to get the records, what is the statement? Select statement, right. Now, right. Here also, SOQL queries will be prepared with the help of select statement. Okay. SOQL query should be prepared with the help of select statement. Suppose if you want to prepare SOSL queries, which will be the future topic we are going to discuss. This will be prepared with the help of find keyword. By using this find statement, we can prepare SOSL queries. SOQL queries should be prepared with the help of select statement. SOSL should be prepared by using find statement here. Okay, now, so whenever we are preparing this SOQL query, we have to use the help of select statement. Normal. Now let's see. When you go to that normal databases, DML statements means what? Four statements like insert, update, delete, select. Only these four comes under DML statements in databases. But in Salesforce, DML statements means we have six DML statements. First one, insert, update, delete, undelete, upsert, merge. Okay, merge. These are the six. Select statement will not be comes under DML statement in Apex programming. Please remember the point. Okay, in normal databases, Oracle, SQL Server, MS Access, there DML statements means only for insert, update, delete, select. Okay, select statement will comes under DML statements in other databases. But in Salesforce, DML statements includes only six. Insert, update, delete, undelete, upsert, merge. These are the six DML statements. Okay, now your select statement is not part of your DML statement. Select statement has been separated over here, that is comes under SOQL. Okay, please remember the point. This is the difference between the other databases and the Salesforce database. Okay, now, so now here in this case, whenever we are preparing this SOQL query, we have to follow a specific syntax because SOQL query, that means database.com, can understand only some specific format. It can understand some specific syntax. We need to follow that format. We need to use that syntax to prepare a request to the database.com to fetch the required records from the object. Now, then what is that syntax we used to follow to prepare select statement? Now, let's see one by one. Okay, then we will see down the limits, and then we'll see the best practices. Then we will see how to write that SOQL queries, what are the ways to execute. We'll see one by one over there. Okay, now make a note of this one. SOQL stands for Salesforce Object Query Language. By using SOQL queries, we can fetch either one or more records from the Salesforce objects. Now, query. Query is nothing but a request to the database.com to be used to fetch the required records from Salesforce objects. Now, by using SOQL, we can fetch the data from one or more Salesforce objects. By using SOQL, we can fetch the data from one or more Salesforce objects. We can fetch the required records from the object by adding one or more user-defined conditions to be get applied. We can fetch the required records from the object by adding one or more user-defined conditions to be get applied to filter the records. SOQL query should be prepared by using select statement. Now, let me give you that select statement syntax. We can specify select field 1, field 2, field 3, field n from object name where conditions group by column names having conditions order by column names limit number of records to return offset number of records to skip all rows for update. This is the syntax we used to follow in order to prepare select statement. Done with this? Now, let me explain. So let me explain what exactly this syntax indicates over there. Generally, whenever we are writing in normal databases, the people are writing the statement like this. Select star from table name. Select star from table name. Normal databases. Here star indicates what? All what? All fields, right? Now it is representing that all columns in the table. That means what? Please select all the column values from the table here. This is the meaning of this statement here. Now tell me here in this case, suppose if my table contains 500 columns. Whenever I'm writing this statement, how many columns data it will fetch? All the 500 columns data it will collect. Now I want to collect the data I want to show on the screen. Upon representing on my screen, I'm representing that only 10 columns data here. In this case, what about the remaining 490 columns data? Why you are fetching unnecessarily? If you want to use, then we can fetch. If you're not using that, then why you are fetching the data unnecessarily? Hmm. In that case here, whenever we are going to be fetching the data from the table, then upon using the select statement in normal databases, because star is not recommended to use. There is a feature that is a star is available, but in the real-time implementations, star is not recommended to use. Why? Because it is fetching all the columns data from the table. Suppose if the table contains so many number of columns, all the columns data will be getting written. To hold that data, we need to use a collection. So to store the data, collection will occupy some more memory. If the collection is occupying more memory, it is putting some more load on the application. Ultimately, application performance will be getting degraded. So that here, don't fetch the unnecessary columns data. If you really need it, get that columns data or else don't fetch that. For that reason, in the real-time implementation, star is not recommended to use. Instead of specifying the star, give your column names. What columns data you want to fetch from the table specified. In Salesforce people are a step ahead. These people has completely removed this star concept in Salesforce. No star concept in Salesforce. If you are using select star from our Salesforce object name, it will give the compilation error. Okay, star is not available in Salesforce. Star concept has been completely eliminated here. Now, in this case, whenever we are fetching the data from the table, then we have to specify the column names. What fields data you would like to fetch, specify the field name. Don't use a field label, use field names. That already I told you. Each and every field contains two properties, field label, field name. Field label is only for display purpose on the screen. Field name is actual column name. So that use that field name. So select field 1, comma field 2, comma field 3, like that up to field n from object name. So that here, whatever the fields data that you want, we can able to collect this fields data from your object. Now, so in this case, select column names by separating the comma from object name. Clear? Understood the concept now? Now. So now here in this case here, whenever we are fetching the data from the object, in some cases I would like to add my own user-defined conditions. I want to apply my own condition. For that one, we are having so many classes. These are the various classes are available here. These are all our classes. Classes means conditions, terms. Okay. Now, classes means conditions, not class. Class is different. Classes means terms and conditions. Like that here, whenever we are going to be fetching the data from the object, we can follow these kind of conditions also. So now here we are having various conditions, like where class is available, group by class, having class, order by class, limit class, offset class, all those class, for update class. Various classes are available over here. Now, upon preparing the SOQL query, using these classes are optional. These are not mandatory. If you really want, use it. If you don't want, leave it. That's what here I have enclosed these classes in square braces. So what are the things I have mentioned in square braces? Those are optional. If you want, we can use. If you don't want, leave it over here. Okay? Understood the concept now? Next. In this case, whenever we are using these classes over here, these first four classes will be in the same order. First four classes will be in the same order. If you're changing the order here, if you're writing this one here, if you're writing this one here, it will be giving that compilation error. It will be a compilation error. We have to follow that same order. Where class, then group by, and then having, and then order by. This is the order. If you're changing the order of these classes, syntax will wrong. Okay, next. The second point here. Whenever we are using this limit and offset class, we have to follow the same order. First of all, we have to write limit class, then we have to write offset class. This is the order. So, upon using this select statement, these are the various classes are available which we can able to use to add one or more user-defined conditions to filter the records. Now, in this case, upon writing this SOQL query, we need to follow the order of these classes. Okay, clear? Next. Now, in this case, whenever we are going to be using these SOQL queries, we have few ground limits. Whenever whenever we are using SOQL queries, there are few ground limits are available here. What are those ground limits? Now let me explain. Upon using this SOQL query within a single transaction, okay, within a single transaction, we can use maximum of 100 SOQL queries, not more than per transaction. Within a single transaction, in one go, we can use maximum of 100 SOQL queries, not more than that. When you try to use more than 100 SOQL queries, at the time of 101th SOQL query, it will show the error message. So now it is indicating system that limit exception, too many SOQL queries, 101 exception will be getting arise. That means it is indicating that, boss, we have given the limitation to you to use 100 SOQL queries per transaction, but you are crossing the limitation here. You are going beyond the limitation. You are trying to use 101 to 1 also, which is not at all possible. So that here we are going to be cancelling this operation. All the previous 150 days SOQL queries will be getting cancelled. The whole transaction will get rolled back. So now here in this case, whenever we are using SOQL queries, we can use maximum of 100 SOQL queries per transaction. Okay? Transaction means a logical unit. So now whenever we are performing a particular task, in that particular task, we can able to use maximum of 100 SOQL queries. Okay. Simply we can say transaction is nothing but a logical container which contains certain operations, which contains a group of operations. Okay. Now, so now here in this case here, as part of this transaction, we can use maximum of 100 SOQL queries. It is the first limitation. Second governor limit is upon using this SOQL queries, each SOQL query can return maximum of 50,000 records. Even though you are having more number of records inside your Salesforce object, it won't return all. Each SOQL query can return maximum of 50,000 records, not more than that. That is a limitation that we have in Salesforce. These are the two ground limits are available. First one, we can use 100 SOQL queries per transaction. Second one, each SOQL query upon fetching the data by using the select statement. Now, this select statement can return maximum of 50,000 records. Now, in this case here, each SOQL query can return maximum of 50,000 records, not more than that. Okay. Now, in this case, to avoid this kind of ground limits, we are following some best practices. The first best practice is always avoid the usage of SOQL queries inside the for loop. That means don't write any SOQL query inside the for loop. Why? If the for loop is repeating for till 100 times, then fine. Because we have 100 SOQL queries per transaction, so we can use it. Suppose if the SOQL for loop is repeating for more than 100 times, at the time of 101th time, now it is going to be hitting the Gonda limit, it will be raising that exception, system that limitation, too many SOQL queries, 101 exception. Now to avoid this kind of problems, okay, we are going to be always avoiding the usage of SOQL query. That means don't write SOQL query inside the for loop, because how many times for loop is going to return execute, we don't know. If it is executing up to 100 times, then fine. If it is executing more than 100 times, it will be hitting the ground limit, it will cancel my operations. Okay, this is the first best practice we used to follow. Always, okay, avoid the usage of SOQL queries inside the for loop. Second one, whenever we are fetching the data by using this select statement, upon fetching the data from the object through this column names, don't fetch the unnecessary columns data. Whatever the columns data is really required inside your application, fetch only the data here. Don't fetch the unnecessary columns data. Why? Because is if you're fetching unnecessary columns data, the data we have to store inside my which application, right? So in that case here, we need to maintain a collection which will store some collection of records. So because of that, it is occupying some more memory space. Ultimately, it will be impacting on the application performance. So that here, upon using a SOQL query, don't fetch the unnecessary columns data. Please fetch only the required columns information. Okay, clear? Now, these are the two best practices and then two ground limits. Now make a note of this one. First one, while using SOQL queries, we can use maximum of 100 SOQL queries per transaction. We can use maximum of 100 SOQL queries per transaction. If the user tries to use more than 100 SOQL queries, then Apex runtime engine will raise an exception called as system dot limit exception. Sorry, system dot limit exception. System dot limit exception too many SOQL queries. Too many SOQL queries. 101 exception will be getting raised. Second one, each SOQL query can returns each SOQL query can returns maximum of 50,000 records. Next, the best practices. Now, first best practice. It is always recommended to avoid the usage of SOQL queries within a transaction. Always avoid SOQL queries inside the for loop. Second one, while using SOQL query, please fetch only the required fields data. Please fetch only the required fields data. Don't fetch unnecessary fields from the object. Data.
Hello?
Now these are the two best practices that we have. So now here, whenever we are writing this SOQL queries, these are the two governor limits are available. First one, we can able to write maximum of 100 SOQL queries per transaction. Second one, we can able to get only 50,000 records by using each SOQL query. Suppose for example, assume that I have an object. In my object, I'm having 10,000 records. Whenever I'm using that SOQL query to fetch the data, now SOQL query can return all the 10,000 records also. Because we are having 10,000 records, we can fetch. Suppose inside my object, if I'm having 1 lakh records are available here. Whenever I'm using SOQL queries, it will return only 50,000. Remaining 50,000 records, it won't fetch. Okay. Now, because if I'm collecting 1 lakh records, 2 lakhs records, 5 lakhs records, those records will be placing there inside the collection. If I'm storing all these records in the form of collection, to hold these records by the collection will have some huge memory space. Collection will occupy more memory space. If the collection is occupying more memory space, it will impact on my application performance automatically. For that reason here, Salesforce has given the limitation we can able to fetch maximum of 50,000 records from the object at a time through SOQL query. Now, yes, then that time we have to use two SOQL queries, right? Suppose I have 10 lakh records. How many SOQL queries are required? 20 SOQL queries. This is the problem. So now in that case, you can raise a question, sir, there is a chance that we need to deal with some millions of records. In that case, we are having a feature called as batch programming. By using this batch programming, we can use an SOQL query. Here also in batch programming also, we are using an SOQL query. Through this SOQL query, we can able to fetch maximum of 50 million records. That means 5 crore records we can fetch through the SOQL query in one shot. That is the capability of SOQL query in batch programming, especially here. Okay. Now, so now in this case, to avoid these ground limits, we are following some best practices. First one, it is always recommended to avoid the usage of SOQL queries inside the for loop. That means don't write any SOQL queries inside the for loop. Write it always outside of that for loop. Second one, while using this SOQL query, okay, please fetch only the required columns data. That means required columns means not mandatory columns. Whatever the columns data you are representing on my screen, fetch only that columns information. Remaining columns don't fetch unnecessarily. Those columns will be storing into your application in the form of this collection, which will occupy some memory space, which will impact on the performance. That's what here, don't fetch the unnecessary records from the object, please fetch only the required columns data. Okay, these are the two best practices we used to follow. Now, in this case, how can we prepare a SOQL query, how to execute it? Whenever we are executing the SOQL query, we have two ways are available. To execute SOQL queries, we are having two ways are available in Salesforce. The first one, by using query editor option. by using query editor from developer console. First one, query editor. When you go to the developer console editor, in the middle you will be having a tab bar, right? Like we are having logs tab, test tab, checkpoints, query editor, progress, problems, view state. Like that we are having so many tabs. In those tabs, we are having a tab called as query editor tab. In that query editor tab also, we can write SOQL query, we can execute it. This is one way. In order to execute the SOQL query, the first way is query editor. Second way is by using Apex programming. Second way is Apex programming. So upon executing this SOQL query, these are the two ways are available. First way is query editor. Second way is Apex programming. Now, how to execute the SOQL query through query editor, how to execute the SOQL query through Apex programming, both we will see. As part of real-time implementation, we are using this approach. We are not using this. This query editor is only for testing purpose. Whatever the query we have prepared, whether query is having any syntactical mistakes or not, whether my query is executing perfectly or not, just to test, we are using query editor over here. Okay? Now, let's see. Let me do the navigation here. How can we execute it? Ways to invoke SOQL queries. Salesforce provides below two ways to invoke SOQL queries. First one, by using query editor from developer console. Second one, by using Apex programming. In this case, click on Setup menu, go to the developer console link, go to the developer console editor, expand the tab bar in the middle of the editor, write the SOQL query inside the query window, click on execute button from bottom left corner, view the results inside the result window. There is a navigation to write the SOQL queries and to execute from query editor from developer console. Done with this? Now, let's see how to execute this SOQL query by using developer console. Let me explain. First of all, let me show you where exactly this query editor option in developer console. Now let's see. So let's go to your Salesforce org. I'm going to my Salesforce org now. Go to the setup menu. Click on developer console. Now let's go to the developer console editor. So now here in this editor, now in this editor at the bottom, you will be having an expand option here. Just you can click on expand. Here we are going to be having a tab bar, which is an expand and collapsible tab bar. Just you can expand and we can make it collapse also, depends upon your requirement. Expand this tab bar over here. In this tab bar, we are having so many tabs are available, like logs tab, test tab, checkpoints, query editor, view state, progress, problems, like that various tabs are available. From this one, we have a tab called as query editor tab. Click on this query editor tab now. So here we are having various options are available. So now, as soon as once you click on this query editor, it is providing this query window. This is the editor here. Now, there is the editor here. Up to this part, this is called as a query window. In this query window, the developer can able to write SOQL queries to be get tested, and then SOSL queries also they can able to test it. So what SOQL query you want to execute, write that SOQL query inside the query window here. So once the query has been getting prepared, then at the bottom left corner we have a button called as execute button here. In the bottom left corner, we have an execute button. Click on execute button to execute this query. But upon preparing the query, if I did some any syntactical mistakes, then now, not history. Now, in this case over here, upon executing this query, if there is any errors are available, those errors will be visible in this error window. If there is any compilation errors are available or parsing errors are available, those will be visible inside error window. This is the error window which will represent. Suppose if I'm giving a column name as wrong or object name as wrong, I forgot to specify the semicolon. If you did any syntactical mistakes, it will show the parsing error inside this particular error window. Suppose if you don't have any syntactical mistakes, the query will be getting executed. The result will be visible inside this result window here. So this is the result window. Now, in this result window, we can able to see that error result information. This is the result window. In this result window, we can see that results information. Okay. Now, in this case, whatever the queries we have executed in the past, if you want to see the history of those queries, this is the history option. This history option is used to see what are all the queries we have executed previously. Because once the first query has been executed, then if you want to execute second query, we need to erase this. Then we need to write that second SOQL query. Suppose if I want the previous query, then we can come to the history, we can see that. Then previously we have executed one query. If you want to see that query, just you can click on the query. Query will be populating automatically over here. We can see this. Okay, clear now. So this is the navigation we used to follow to execute the SOQL queries by using query editor option. Clear? Feeling comfortable now? Will you able to write some queries now? Now, make a note of some small use cases. Write an SOQL query to fetch all account record IDs, names, rating, industry, and annual revenue values from the object. I want to prepare an SOQL query which is used to fetch all the account record IDs, names, rating values, industry names, and annual revenue values from your account object. Done with this? Now tell me what is the query. Select, follow the syntax. ID, then how to separate? Comma. First name. Why first name? Hmm. Right. Name is mandatory field. Okay. Hmm. Industry, annual revenue from account. That's it. Simple. So we have to follow the syntax. Use the keyword select and then specify the column names whatever you want by separating a comma from object name. Okay. It may be standard object, custom object, anything. Same statement, same syntax over here. No change. Okay. Now, but please make sure that these column names are correct. Please enter the correct field names. Don't enter field label. Enter the field. Okay. If you don't know the field name, you can check the field names by going to Object Manager also, Schema Builder also, Developer Console also. Okay. Now let me execute this query. No, no. That already told you entire Salesforce development is not case sensitive. You can write that query in any character case also, no issues. Now I'm executing this query. Write this SOQL query, click on execute button. So now whatever the records are available, we can fetch. These are the 31 records are available inside my account object. Total 31 records are available here. These are the record ID values, names, rating values, industry, annual revenues. Clear? Understood the concept now? Next. Second use case. Write an SOQL query to fetch all the contact records from the object. I haven't given any column names, you can fetch those columns here. You know what columns are available in my contact object, you know that here. Now tell me what is the query. Okay, select hmm, ID field, first name,
Last name and contact phone number. Em-
title,
Email.
phone, fax. Now from contact. That's it. Now I am able to collect that contact record ID, first name of the contact, last name of the contact, email ID, title, phone, and the fax from contact object. No, no, see, that's what I told you. Okay, fetch the required field means what? Not mandatory fields. Whatever the columns that you want, we can fetch it here. Okay, it doesn't mean to fetch mandatory fields here. Now, whatever the columns you want to show on your screen, get only those columns here. Okay. I'm pasting this query. Click on execute. Now I'm able to fetch all the contact records. Total 22 contact records are available. These are the contact record IDs, first name, last name, email, title, phone, and the fax. Next. Write an SOQL query to fetch all the hiring manager records. Inside my hiring manager object, whatever the fields are available, those fields data I would like to collect. Hiring manager is a custom object, right? Everything. Because that is nothing but the API name. Okay, that is called as field name.
Select ID.
Now, done with this query, selecting the ID of that record, name, location name, whatever the column name that you have given. Because standard fields are common to all our accounts. Custom fields are different from my account to your account. So in your account, in your custom object, upon creating the field, whatever the name that you have given, we have to provide that. Okay. Now, location, designation,
Email. Contact number.
employment type,
Contact.
email address,
Contact number.
contact number from hiring manager. If you want to get the current CTC, then current CTC also. But upon writing the query, no need to follow any case sensitivity. You can write that SOQL queries in any character case, uppercase, lowercase, combination, everything you can write, no issues. Let me execute this piece of code now. Click on execute. Now let's see. It is indicating that passing error. So now it is clearly indicating that no such column Okay, location, name, and okay, an entity hiring manager. That means the column name is simply location. Click on execute. Now my query will be executed here. There are 16 records are available in this particular hiring manager object. Those 16 records will be getting visible over. Okay. Next one. Write an SOQL query to fetch all the users from the user object. Inside my user object, whatever the users are available, I would like to collect all the users information. Done? Now tell me.
Select ID, first name,
Nobody is responding. We have created users, right? Hmm.
username and password,
Now, what are the columns?
username
Hmm.
and user password.
Now, now you guys are sitting in the lab, right? Morning to evening. Huh? Then what are you doing then? Hmm. You have to refer admin topics also. Okay. Now, better to take one topic daily admin here, and then you can discuss among yourself, and then you can able to do the practice also. Okay. Along with the development, if you continue with the admin topics also from basic. Okay, from starting here. Create one separate account here, separate Salesforce account. Do the practice of admin also. By end of the development, you will be completing the revision of admin also. So if you are having both and admin development knowledge, you can start attending the interviews very easily. Okay. Generally, what the people will do is, so now the people won't okay do the practice on the features. Once the course get completed, they will start doing the practice on the features. So at that time, it will take more time to do the practice also. So because of that, they will be missing some opportunities. So from now onwards, we can take a list of admin topics here. Today this topic, it may be small feature also, no problem. Okay, today this topic, tomorrow this topic, day after tomorrow this topic here. List out all the admin topics over here on a paper, and then schedule the dates. Based on the date, okay, daily, spend some half an hour time, spend some time on admin also. Okay, don't neglect the admin part. Admin part is the base. Okay, admin is the base part here for development. Even though you are in development, so many admin topics will follow you here also. Okay, now. So now select the ID, comma first name,
Last name,
last name,
contact,
title, username is active,
email
whether user is active or not, from user
from
object. From user object, we can collect all this users information. Now let me execute this. Click on execute. Now we are able to see the user records information also. Whatever the users we have created, development user, testing user, training batch user, manager user, customer user, everything, we can see those user details. Okay. Next. Next one. Take a use case. Write an SOQL query to fetch all the case records from the object. I want to get all the case records. Now tell me in case object what fields are available here. You know these fields because previously we have created case records also through ORM. There we have supplied the values for the fields. Hmm. What are the columns are there?
Case. Okay.
Okay, subject, priority, okay, case number, okay, right?
Status.
Status, okay. Hmm.
Type.
Now, case type also. Like for example, ID, case number, status, priority, origin, type, reason, subject, description from case object. So we can collect the idea of the case, case number. Case number is an auto number field given by Salesforce in case object. We have status field, a priority, origin, type, reason, subject, description from case object. Now, let me execute this piece of code. Click on execute button. Now we can able to collect the case records. We are having total 27 cases are available. These are the case details over here. These are the case record details. Okay. Now, next one, the last one. Write an SOQL query to fetch all the opportunity records from the object. So whatever the opportunity records are available in this opportunity object, I want to fetch all these records. What are all the fields are there? Close date, okay. Type, okay. Opportunity. Hmm. Amount, okay. Amount field, right.
Opportunity.
Hmm. Opportunity ID, name, amount, close date, right? Stage name,
Type. Type.
type, probability from opportunity object. You should be able to remember some basic fields. Okay. Now let me execute this SOQL query. Now, now I'm able to see total 33 records are available inside my okay, opportunity object. These are all are the 33 records are available here. These are the total 33 records are available. So depends upon the requirement, we can able to write this SOQL query. That will be next in Apex programming. Here we can't add all the conditions here. This is only for testing purpose here. Okay, now how to prepare SOQL queries and how to execute them through programming, that we need to decide. Okay, from tomorrow we'll see that part here, and then so we are when we go to the real-time implementation, always we have to use Apex programming to execute the query. Then how to prepare the SOQL queries through Apex programming? There, what is static SOQL? What is dynamic SOQL? If it is a static SOQL, then again we are having two cases. If the query returns one record, how to store. If the query returns multiple records, how to handle. We'll see, both we'll see in tomorrow's session. Okay, don't miss that tomorrow's session. That is most important. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.